Hello and welcome to Make It Happen with Will Polston. I'm Will Polston. This is episode number 91, and in this episode I'm going to be sharing with you 5 ways to dream bigger. I'm sure there's been at least one point in your life where you've been told to dream big, and that's all very well and it makes sense, but why should we? And I think this James Allen's quote really sums it up quite nicely. Dream lofty dreams, and as you dream, so shall you become. Your vision is the promise of what you shall one day be. Your ideal is the prophecy of what you shall at last unveil. So with that in mind, clearly it makes perfect sense to dream as big as possible, right? But how? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be sharing with you on this episode. But in addition to that, I want to share some of the reasons why I think it makes sense to do it. If Google have a whole division called Google X that is focused on creating exponential growth. So rather than just incremental gains, which are great, but completely starting with a blank canvas and saying, look, if we wanted to get 10 times the results, what would we need to do in order to create that result? And they start from a completely blank slate. Grant Cardone created a book, or a whole concept really, called the 10x rule, which is take your goal, times it by 10, and work towards that. Because if you do that, even if you fail significantly and only achieve 2 times more than what you did, typically 2 times more will be much more than the incremental gains that you would look towards. So let's really get stuck into the how you can do this. Now, number 1 is remove the probability factor. Now, let's look at why we don't dream big, and it's simply down to belief. We think that we cannot do something because of XYZ reason or excuse, whatever that is. And as Henry Ford once said, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. So it's worth bearing in mind that there's a difference between probability and possibility. And the only thing that defines whether something is possible or not is if it fits within universal laws. The probability of something being achieved is down to belief, strategy, and action. So if you didn't get caught up in the tyranny of how, what would be possible for you? What would you love to be, do, or have if there was no restrictions whatsoever? If you had Aladdin's lamp and you could be given anything, what would it be? That's possibility thinking. Number 2 is level up until you can't level up anymore and then go again. Now, think what you might love to do, for example, fly first class. Then think, what's the level up from that, which might be flying a private jet. And what's the level up from that, owning your own jet? So a few other examples might be self-employed, and a level up from that might be owning your own business with staff. A level up from that is float your company on the stock exchange. A level up from that is own multiple businesses on the stock exchange as an investor. It might be making a difference to your family, making a difference to your town, making a difference to your country, making a difference to the world, making a difference to the universe. It might be run 1K, run 5K, run a marathon, run an ultra marathon. It goes on. Own a flat, own a home, own multiple homes, own a home abroad, own an island. Now, what I will say is that when you dream, you must have a benefit to your means values. If you've not listened to the means values episode, go back to episode 2 and have a listen to it. Because if it doesn't, you won't be inspired to have it. You won't create that emotional link. You won't see it how it will serve you. And it will just seem like an unnecessary excess. So you really want to link it emotionally. And you do that by linking it to your values. Number 3 is model the people you look up to. And we all have someone that we look up to, whether that person be someone that we know personally or not, a celebrity or whoever it might be, we can model them. And by asking yourself, what do they do? What's their way of being that you would love to have and you would dream to have, be, do, or have, that will help you with something bigger than what you may have come up with your own. Now, that I'm going to caveat that slightly because it may be something that they value and you don't, but this is just to get ideas of what would be possible. It challenges you on the basis that if they have it, then it's possible, certainly possible for you too. And additionally, if you can find out what they dream about, which will no doubt be greater than what you are currently thinking, then that will be really interesting. Well, what is it that they're thinking about in the future? Because they might have now what you dream for, but what is it they're dreaming for? It can give you some inspiration and be particularly inspiring. But yeah, like I say, just because they have it, it doesn't mean that you should. It's just simply a way to expand your thinking of possibility. Number 4 is stretch out the time frame. Most of us feel disheartened when we don't achieve something we would like to. So setting dreams that just seem out of our reach would be setting ourselves up for failure, so we just don't do it. But more often than not, it's not the dream that's unattainable, but it's actually the time frame that we give ourselves in order to achieve it. So one of the things I recommend you doing is creating a North Star, and if you haven't listened to episode number 1, go back to episode number 1 and understand the purpose of creating a North Star and why you do it. And your North Star is the ultimate dream. It could be 10, 20, 50, 1,000 years into the future, whatever it might be. But when you create your North Star, you want to consider dreaming about all of the key areas of life: your health, your family, your relationship, your social life, your attitude, your career, business, finances, or personal growth. And you want to do that whilst applying the other tips that I've already mentioned on this. And then tip number 5 is think outside the box. What would be out of this world? There's 2 types of people in this world: the see it to believe it people and the believe it to see it people. Personally, I'm most inspired by the people that did what others didn't think was possible. Those that believed in themselves and believed in something when others were not able to see the possibility of it, or the only time that they could then see it was when it was created. People like Thomas Edison, Nikola Tesla, Roger Bannister, Henry Ford, Elon Musk, those types of people in this world. The people that have created something that others hadn't done before, something that solved the problem on a major scale. What would be a huge problem that you could solve? Something that when you think about it, it fires you up, it fills you with enthusiasm, and you'll often find that this particular problem will be aligned to your means values, and that's where you can get that emotion and tap into that emotion, which is the ultimate renewable energy source that can fuel you and enable you to achieve your goals. Now, like I say, this process can be done by getting really clear on your means and end values and then stretching them out to an extreme, which we just spoke about in tip number 4. And if you haven't done that, then I encourage you to go back, listen to episode number 2, where I talk about that in more detail. So I hope you found this useful. If you've got any other tips that you feel are great to be able to think bigger, please come and share them in the Make It Happen community, our free Facebook group. You can come and join us there. There'll be a link in the show notes to be able to come and join us. But yeah, I look forward to hearing what your tips are and what it is that you're thinking big about. Again, please feel free to come and share that in the group. Until next time, make it happen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast. Make sure you join Will's free Facebook group, the Make It Happen community. Please support the show by subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Share this episode with at least one friend you think would benefit from it, and give Will a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. Until next time, make it happen.